Hello everybody. Now I wanted to talk about some of the presidents we've had here in America and the massive abuses of power they did. Now I know people want Obama impeached because they're idiots. No, it's because of the IRS thing where they're funding nationalist rebels with machine guns, and the NSA thing where they're funding nationalist rebels with machine guns. Fuck if I know what Obama's doing. Probably being like, I'm black and I'm president. Now I'm gonna go smoke some crack. Now for all of you out there, yes, that was racist. But no, I mean, he didn't really abuse his power as much as others we hold highly did. Like George Washington, who had very limited authority, yet used his limited authority to expand the executive powers 2 or 3 times. Or Thomas Jefferson, who got elected saying he was going to limit the authority of the federal government, and then expanded the authority of the federal government by 3 or 4 times what their authority should have been. And then we have Andrew Jackson, who somehow managed to shut down the federal treasury, though he had almost no authority to do it, and it was illegal to do if Congress had given them permission to run, and yet he shut them down after Congress had given them permission to run. So that is what Andrew Jackson did. Not to mention throwing the Indian treaties out the window and sending all the Indians to Oklahoma. Which they needed to go to Oklahoma because there's a lot for Indians to do in Oklahoma. Like sit on their ass or play in the desert. Oklahoma sucks, by the way. Then we come to Mr. Lincoln. Does anyone know what Mr. Lincoln did? Mr. Lincoln should have been impeached 5 times for abusing his power. Yet Mr. Lincoln wasn't. Do you know why Mr. Lincoln wasn't? Because Mr. Lincoln was popular in the North, and the South had succeeded, therefore had no representatives in Congress, and Mr. Lincoln could then do whatever the fuck he wanted to do, whenever he wanted to do it. Like being the only president to declare martial law. Yes, Lincoln was the only president to declare martial law over anything. Now, various states have declared martial law throughout the years, including Massachusetts when the Boston bombing occurred a year or 2 ago. But that was not the federal government and not the president. The president has declared martial law once, and it was Lincoln who did it. He also fired generals without Congress's permission, did this, did that. Pretty much Lincoln did whatever the fuck he wanted to do, whenever the fuck he wanted to do it. Now the next one I can think of who massively abused his power was Teddy Roosevelt. And Teddy Roosevelt, I love him as president. Because Teddy Roosevelt was absolutely hilarious. Because he did a bunch of shit he did not have authority to do, and got away with it because the people loved him so much. When they tried to impeach him, the people started protesting and wanted Congress to impeach itself because they liked Teddy Roosevelt. One of the things Teddy Roosevelt did, and this is absolutely hilarious, okay? Listen to this. This is something he actually did. National parks are declared by Congress. National monuments at the time were declared by the president. Now, Teddy Roosevelt was a very big outdoorsman who wanted to keep the outdoors alive. But to declare a park, he had to go through Congress. So what he did was he declared parks he wanted to keep national monuments so that the park would stay alive. Do you need me to repeat that he declared parks monuments so he could keep parks? Teddy Roosevelt did that on more than one occasion. Another thing Teddy Roosevelt did, he wanted to build the Panama Canal. Yet Congress didn't want to pay Panama the amount they were asking to allow them to build the canal. So Roosevelt, being smart, sent troops to Panama, took control over Panama, declared Panama a colony, which he did not have the authority to do because Congress declares colonies. So he declares Panama a colony long enough to make the Panamanians vote to declare themselves a colony of the U.S. so he could build the Panama Canal. Now, he did not have Congress's permission or money to build the canal, so he declared it a military project. So the military built the Panama Canal because it was for I don't know, okay? I don't know the logic here. And yes, I'm playing with Peter Parker. I don't know the logic here because this is Teddy Roosevelt and the man was insane. Legitimately, I think he was the craziest president we ever had. Now, we also have Reagan in this, which is praised as a great president. Now, we were fighting communists at the time, and I believe it was in Nicaragua, though I can be wrong. And we had the Contras who were on our side and believed in freedom and capitalism, and also in blowing up children with landmines and selling cocaine, versus whoever the fuck else we were fighting, who knows. So Reagan was sending the Contras money. Well, Congress stopped the money because the money was being spent on landmines which were blowing up children, and apparently murdering children is bad. Though there are a lot of children I know I'd like to murder. So Reagan came up with a brilliant plan of we were going to sell weapons to Israel, who was in turn going to sell them to Iran, who was going to give the profits, and then Israel was going to give the profits of the weapons to the Contras so they could fight the communists. So, I'm going to repeat this just because it is as crazy as it sounds. We were selling weapons to Israel, who then quadrupled the price and sold them to Iran. Now, Iran at the time was funding terrorists and has captured a lot of our people hostage during these times. Yet we were selling weapons to them through Israel so the profits from the weapons could go to the Contras so the Contras could fight the communists. For those who don't realize what this convoluted plan means, it pretty much means high treason because you're selling weapons to people who are our enemies. So Reagan claims, oh, I knew nothing about it. I sleep during cabinet meetings and somehow got away with that. I'd impeach him for sleeping during cabinet meetings, but we didn't. George Bush Sr., I don't know how the fuck he got out of it. I know he knew about it. We know he fucking knew about this because he's a fucking control freak who at one point was head of the CIA. He knew what the fuck was going on. So he got away with it. They pinned it on Lieutenant Oliver North, who had no authority whatsoever to do any of this, and was not nearly crazy, middle-aged and crazy enough as Ronald Reagan to come up with this, who then got away with it because he shredded the documents so they couldn't prove he did any of it. And that was the Iran-Contra affair, for those who are wondering. It is as crazy as it sounds. I read about this and I have no idea how the fuck none of them went to jail. The other thing that happened during the Reagan administration is the NSA and CIA created crack and was selling crack to the inner city to make money for God knows what. And Reagan once again claimed he knew nothing about this and completely got away with it. Same as George Bush Sr. And this is true and is another batshit crazy thing that only Reagan could come up with. So as you can see, Obama has not abused his power very much compared to Reagan or Roosevelt or Lincoln or Jefferson or Washington, who we all claim were good presidents. Know your history. Everything I just told you is true.